in property, life, and other lines of insurance products and services. And Kirk Market. Experience a world of choice. And by Yum. Daily school lunch menus are available to browse on the Yum website. Just visit yumcayman.ky for more info.
Hey, Cayman parents. We get it. You're underslept, over-trafficked. You can barely find your sanity in the morning because you're still trying to find your kids' shoes and lunch boxes. Let Yum take some of the stress away. Every day, over 3,000 students enjoy delicious, nutritious meals from Yum. Over 5 million lunches served and counting. Private school parents? Browse the Yum Cayman app and order up to a month in advance or last minute by 12 a.m. the night before. Government school students? Just drop by the Yum canteen. No pre-orders needed. Yum can't help you find your sanity, but we can sure make your mornings just a bit easier. Check out daily menus at myschoolpos.com or visit yumcayman.ky to learn more.
I'm Michael Webster.
And I'm Denise Brown of Cayman Insurance Center.
Family is not the most important thing, it's everything.
We have worked with the community and their families on protecting themselves for the future.
Whether it's providing top-rated life insurance
or protecting your family's household investment.
From our family to yours, we understand and we care.
I'm Denise Brown. Call me at 814-7229.
And I'm Michael Webster at 925-5433.
We are Cayman Insurance Center,
specializing in property, life, and other lines of insurance products and services at an affordable rate. We are Michael and
Denise at Cayman Insurance Center.
Call today.
Looking for fresh, healthy food that's full of flavor? Then you've got to visit Kirk Market. Our dishes are made with fresh, high-quality ingredients. Enjoy vibrant mixed greens or satisfying pasta salads. Or try one of our delicious grill options like blackened chicken, spicy beef steak, or grilled salmon. Looking for something light and flavorful? We've got sushi rolls and poke bowls prepared daily. And don't forget to explore a hot bar or Billy Fresh salad at the salad bar. Stop by Kirk Market today for breakfast, lunch, or dinner and taste the difference. Eat well, live well with Kirk Market.
And now, Radio Cayman presents The Buzz, an insightful and fresh take on a variety of issues that impact the local environment. This is where we address the topics that matter. Here's your host, Kathy Miller.
Good morning, Cayman. Welcome to The Buzz. I'm your host, Kathy Miller. I'm happy to be here this morning. I hope everybody tuned in to hear what was an interview last night that we had with Newland candidates Raul Gonzalez. And if not, you can always go back to our YouTube page, have a listen to that, because, you know, we're trying to bring our debates to you every Monday and Wednesday night. This Wednesday evening, we're not carrying any debates. We're actually going to be streaming the Chamber of Commerce forums, their party leader debate. And we have one of those party leaders here in studio with us this morning. I'm happy to welcome Mr. André Ebanks, who is the party leader with the Caymanian Community Party and candidate for West Bay South. And also we have Natasha Whitelock. She's a candidate for Red Bay with the Caymanian Community Party. So good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning, Kathy. Thank you.
Good morning to you. Good morning, Cayman, and good morning to Caymanians overseas.
Yes.
Oh, all right.
Good morning,
Yes, you know that they're tuned in.
Yes.
Or them, it could be good evening.
That's true. That's true.
Very, very
As you have done times overseas in London and all the rest, so you know it's more afternoonish there right now. Right. So we're in the thick of things. We're about just maybe 2.5 weeks away from Election Day. How do you feel about it?
We're excited. It's been a very intense process, as it should be, because you are running to represent a electoral district and take the country forward. So it should be intense, it should be rigorous, but it's also been quite positive. It's also been quite refreshing. So we're excited about it.
Yeah.
That's good, as you should be, for sure. It has been intense, and I'm not even running. So on the other side of it, I understand. There's a lot of work, a lot of effort that goes into a lot of coordination, and just so all of your waking time, basically.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's why I applaud, as I did in 2021, anyone who does this, because there's only a small segment of the population that actually experiences what it's like to actually be a candidate.
Right.
So the 59 of us are doing something in life that most people may not ever experience.
Right.
So you got to applaud everyone for at least taking that step.
And it's your second time, I believe.
Second time.
Second time running elections. And your first time you were pretty successful, I would have to say. So you had a pretty good 4-year term there with government. And you are now the leader of a newly formed Caymanian Community Party. And you're a former deputy premier. So how would you describe your political journey over the past 4 years? And what lessons do you think over these 4 years have shaped your approach to what's coming next?
How long is this program?
It's 30 minutes.
30 minutes. Okay. I'll do the best I can.
Well, your segment is 30 minutes.
Because I could write a book after this. And I also want to leave some time for Natasha. Jokes aside, it has been the honor of my professional life to be the representative for the MP for West Bay South, and then more broadly to be cabinet minister and a deputy premier. To answer your question, coming into 2021, I had 2 ministries, financial services and commerce on one side, and on the other side, literally one side of the hall and the other side of the hall, in government admin building, investment, innovation, and social development. Coming in for financial services, the 3-step plan in my mind was, 1, we had to get off all these international risk lists for financial services and commerce. If we're able to accomplish that, then 2, refresh some of the products so that the industry got excited again, got reinvigorated, because when we took office in 2021, they were quite deflated because of being on all the international lists. If we were then able to accomplish that, let's identify 2 to 3 new growth areas in financial services and commerce to try to bring in more or new economic activity and transactions. By the grace of God and the will of the people and great staff and private sector working together, we were able to accomplish all 3. All of the international lists we were removed from, international high-risk lists. 2, we refresh some of the products to get the industry excited again. Massive pieces of legislation like the Merchant Shipping Act that helped the Maritime Authority, which is a very small but mighty authority. 60% of the yachts in the world are registered on the Maritime Authority, the Cayman Shipping Register. Incredible statistics for a country of our size.
Mm-hmm.
Other updates in the Companies Act and things around family offices and private trust all got done. And then we identified 2 to 3 new growth areas. One was tech, and the reason for that is because I saw those as the jobs of the future for Caymanians, because that's when you take account of AI, when you take account of blockchain, those are where the jobs and the curriculum should lead to in most cases. And then that also means that at the same time you'll have to accelerate TVET for some of those jobs that will be immune to AI. So you're going to need a complement of both, but it's good for the island to have that diversity. We also brought on for the first time in much more higher volumes of applications of reinsurance, which has a link to our investment funds product. Key to that is that, 1, they bring real substance and job opportunities to the country. So I have a constituent in West Bay South who was qualified as an actuary, who now has a job at one of those new large reinsurers that have come to Cayman. So it's not just about the business, it's the impact that the business can have and the connection that it can have with the country to provide economic activity and job opportunities for Caymanians. And then the third one was family offices. They're smaller, so they have less stress on the infrastructure. But I found in meeting a number of them, either in Cayman or overseas, they're also naturally altruistic. So they seem to want to be able to improve the community that they move to. And I've seen a number of them give very strong charitable donations to some of our well-known nonprofit organizations. On the other side, investment, innovation, and social development, that investment piece was coming from those who were new businesses that were coming to the island to see how they could invest in the community itself. It wasn't about the government investing in people coming here. It was the other way around. It was those who were coming here, how they could invest in the community. On the innovation side, we tried to think of a tool that we could use that could be developed and used, which is now coming online, the national EID. So that legislation was in 2022, and it's going to prove to do one or two things. One, there'll finally be one document in which someone will be able to show that they're Caymanian. Right now, a number of us have to juggle around 5 to 7 documents every time, and there's nothing, not even your passport, that says you are Caymanian. So the minority government continued to press on with that. There was a launch of it. I think there'll be a test phase because it's not just a card, it's an application as well. That will be able to not only identify Caymanians, make services that you're dealing with government simpler, easier, more efficient, save you time sitting in traffic. You'll be able to do things electronically. For those of us who are older persons, and they were some of the main champions of the EID, some of them don't have a passport. So how do I identify myself in terms of financial inclusion and getting a bank account and so forth? So it's going to be very, very exciting to see that continue. And then on the social development side, the goal there was to try to enhance or revamp social services related legislation that hadn't moved in decades. So repeal of the Poor Persons Relief Law, which was 5 to 6 paragraphs, not pages, paragraphs, with a Modern Financial Assistance Act, which was then passed in 2022. Regulations that supported it were passed in 2023, and then it was operationalized in 2024. That would then give the country a modern set of legislation so that if you are able, you will then be able, the department have in exchange for distribution, you do something of value for the country, and then try to narrow, which is the longer term goal of it, narrow those who need assistance as much as possible to those who are unable to have an income, which are older persons and those who are permanently disabled. So that's the long-term vision of it. And then a large body of work went into the revamp of the Adoption Act, the Children's Act, and the Older Persons Act. For the latter two, it was to give it more enforcement and teeth and penalties and fines and streamline a few things. Like in the Children's Act, the streamlining of the care homes, make it work a bit more efficiently. And for adoptions, to streamline and make more efficient the adoption process, which was sometimes taken up to almost a decade to accomplish. Now it's been aligned with the Hague Convention and international standards, and that's key because how you bring that home to the community is you're joining a family sooner rather than later. That's another child that can be brought into a family and take on a new life path that might not have existed without that family. So that last bit of legislation outside of the Financial Assistance Act was taken over the line by the minority government, but it was, I can tell you, between myself and the ministry team and all the stakeholders that contributed, a 2.5-year process to bring that to fruition. So that was the body of work, to answer your question.
In a somewhat brief summary right there, how many pieces of legislation would you say that you have been definitely significantly a part of and changing? And
Over 50.
Over 50.
Over 50.
So in 4 years, that's a pretty good impact.
Yeah. If you went on, I think it's legislation.gov.ky, and you were to count it from 2021 to 2024, I would say it may be over 60, but definitely over 50 pieces of legislation. Because the goal was to keep head down, focus what was in front of me. So to answer your question of the lessons learned, which is just bring us to the party, and then we can let Natasha say a few words so I don't be a mic hog. But coming in, it wasn't the most, this is not breaking news, harmonious caucus.
Of course.
And so when you're in that position, you think, well, how can I help the country? How can I make it better? I'm here now. So for as much as I could, as quick as I could, do the most good I can within the portfolios that I can control and have the most impact to help the country. And both are equally important. One is dealing with primarily the most vulnerable in the country, and the other is dealing with the country's by far strongest economic pillar. Both had to be strengthened in a way to take the country forward. And the lessons to apply to that is, and that brings us to forming this party, is that it shouldn't be that way. In order for the country's top challenges to be overcome, you need to have a group, party, team that's all pulling in the same direction so that ministers and caucus can collaborate in a unified fashion to be able to move mountains in 4 years. So if you're looking at the amount of body of work to your question that was accomplished, and there were a couple other ministers that I think you could put into that category that just were able to bear down and focus on what was in front of them. Imagine what the country should imagine what that could be like with all 8 ministers working in collaboration in a collegiate fashion to then overcome these challenges. And that's the goal of the party.
Agreed.
Find people with integrity who will use their collective brain power and collaboration within public sector and private sector to create a stronger, fairer Cayman.
Agreed. And the teamwork element is so important. And to use an older analogy, I'm sure that we've all heard of, we can all be in the same boat, but when there's somebody drilling holes in that boat, the boat's going to sink.
Correct.
So no matter how hard you're trying to get somewhere, that boat's going to sink. So.
And so when forming the party, and this will be a good segue to Natasha, we didn't, Natasha, we can say this in real time because she doesn't know I'm about to say this. It's not as if we went hunting for particular candidates to scrounge them up. We were sort of matched. She sort of dropped and said that she was interested in doing this. And the reason that spoke volumes to me is because we used to work together.
Okay.
We used to be at the firm Appleby together.
Okay.
And she, at the time, she's gone on to lots of other things since then, but at the time she was an intellectual property paralegal. And I was just some new kid on the block, fresh face, trying to be an attorney, law student. So she knew more about the law than me. So I knew her pedigree. I knew how professional she was. I knew how clever she was. And I said, if you really want to do this, this is the caliber of person that I think that the country is looking for, to have a mix of experience and integrity, but also fresh and new ideas and new perspectives. And I knew how ingrained she was in the Red Bay community. So over to you, Natasha.
So this means to me, in hearing that you guys used to work together at Appleby, right?
Yes.
In the sense that she knew the caliber of person that you are as well, what it was like to work with you, and said, hey, I want to come and join the party and I want to do this. Something like that. Tell us about this, Natasha.
You're very right, André. He, good morning again, everybody. Thank you for having us in your homes and your cars and on your YouTubes and so on today. And, but André, he worked down the hallway from me. And it's funny because you were there during your intern year, I do believe, and then you continued for some time later on.
Correct.
But even after that, we still kept in touch. I was the older one in the office, along with some other ladies. So I'd walk down the entire hall and I'd say, good morning, good morning, good morning. It was like I'd repeat that about 50 times before I reached my desk. So, being the Caymanians that we are, we automatically clicked. I think it was more over manners and respect for each other than work ethic, which came later on. But, that's just important. And, since I've said that, it's one of those things when you walk into an office in Cayman, that your Caymanians expect that. We were raised with those types of mannerisms. So it's something I think when we talk about culture that it should be adopted by everyone. Don't look at us as though we're very strange. It's just what we do, and then we go about our day, and it's all good, But yeah, he was a good guy, and I was so proud of him when he was voted in, and I watched his journey along the way, and every time we met, it was always, I'm so proud of you. So
I hear, and the whole manners thing, I understand that, because coming from Vancouver, Canada, city girl, that's not something we did in Canada. So it's something that influenced me here in Cayman. And I've now changed my ways in that sense.
Well, you've assimilated.
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
and integrated.
Yeah.
Absolutely, from day one, absolutely. Anybody could tell you that.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so being that you're running for Red Bay,
Yes,
and that's a community that you grew up in, you have deep roots in.
I did.
What changes do you want to see in Red Bay that perhaps maybe you haven't been experiencing over these past few years?
Right. So there's quite a bit of things, Kathy, in Red Bay that needs to be done. I'd like to see our neighborhood more or less in a better way. I need it to rise from the ashes is what needs to happen. I want to see life in our neighborhood. I want to see people moving around and knowing who your neighbors are. I was sitting with a lady this weekend, and she lives at the bottom of my street, actually, and she said, Natasha, I have no idea who's living around me. I was able to name out a few people for her. There's a lot of apartments there, but it's it's not good. When I was growing up, I knew every single neighbor. I mean, there was Dave Martins and his family was across the road. There was Dot and JJ. OC and his family were there at one point as well. All of the guys in the Trade Winds band I knew, and still see some of them to this day. It was a really good time growing up in Red Bay. Mr. Selkirk and his kids, Annabeth and O'Leary, and everybody would always play together, and everybody would go to youth group on a Sunday, on a Friday night, sorry. But now I'm driving by the church on a Friday night, and the yard is pretty empty, and there's not as many people walking down the road. There's not as many people sharing and checking on each other. And I want to bring back that feel to our community, togetherness, oneness, that we can all come together and say, hey, I need a hand, washing down something, or, painting a house, or whatever it is. I want that feeling back in my community, as well as there's other things, the flooding, the need for more lighting, safety, some more, CCTV cameras everywhere. My immediate job before this, of course, was in security. So I know a lot about the cameras and where things should be going, we don't have that. I said it to someone before on one of the other shows I was on. There was an incident in the community a few years back, and the police officer told me that there was pretty much a ring camera at the top of the road. Now, when you think we have businesses in our area and you're trying to catch the perpetrator, how are you going to catch that person with a ring camera? So, for all of our streets, Selkirk, Admirals, Marina Drive, Victory, Prospect Drive, every one of our roads, Patrick's Island, I'd like there to be, some really good CCTV cameras that all of our people can feel confident knowing that they can close their doors at night and go inside and go to bed. And if God's willing there isn't, but if something happens, that we'll be able to catch that person really quickly.
So security is definitely a focal point for you as well.
A focal point.
And I understand that youth development is for Red Bay. You have a focus on youth development.
Yes. So that would come in with the churches. That would tie into education, which is one of the national issues that I'd like to address. So education, immigration. We have a lot of stuff that we want to get done.
The country has a lot of stuff that needs to get done.
Yeah.
So it's going to be busy. And part of the case that we're making to the country is that you're going to need a range of experience coupled with new ideas to take the country forward. These are challenging times. If you look at the pre-election financial update that has just been published, it emphasizes the enormity of the task. For now, the country to be shown in that report to be in a deficit. What that means outside of accounting language and budgetary language is that there's less now money available for the country to do things to help people. It'll be more difficult to deal with the cost of living. It'll be more difficult to enter into capital projects. It'll be more difficult if the world, because of a global trade war, which we're not a direct participant in, but we are indirectly impacted by, if the globe goes into recession, that could be less services that are being transacted in financial services. That could be less tourism that is coming to the country. That could be less revenue that can go to essentials, such as healthcare, education, financial assistance. So we need a unified party that is going to be financially prudent to take the country back and not have vanity projects to boost particular electoral prospects. You need a group with integrity. So a lot of people now have said to me, I understand why you have removed yourself 31 October along with 3 others from this, because you were on the inside and could see it develop and maybe couldn't reveal everything at the time. But it's now unfolding without, in many cases, any instigation by us. And people are starting to say, you could not stay. What you were saying is that you have now removed yourself in order to be in a better position to protect the country from some of the acts that were going on that are now being revealed. So the country, I said this, I think, at the Newlands in Savannah rally on Saturday night, I almost want to revise my chamber answer in terms of the top priorities for the country.
You can revise it right now.
Because the top priority now would have to be able to go in and be able to get what is the true picture of the financial,
Yes.
the finances of the country, and then be able to stabilize them, because the budget is the lifeblood under the policy. It's the fuel under the policy, and it'd be very difficult to move things forward, deal with things like the cost of living, if the government is in a deficit. It'll also make it difficult in order to have any sort of financial arrangements, because the UK might have to be involved in approving the budget. So this is serious, and you're going to need serious people to solve serious problems.
André, when you said that you stepped down and people are starting to understand that more, have you found it to be really difficult to help people understand why you did make that decision? And not just you alone, there was a couple of other ministers that did the same.
2 other ministers and 1 parliamentary secretary. So it's been a range. Some people got it instinctively from the time we resigned, because they could see between the lines. Others needed a bit more explanation, because the view would have been, well, okay, I don't understand why you wouldn't have spoke out more. But that's the point. Once you're a cabinet minister, the cabinet is bound by a collective responsibility where you're unable, per the cabinet manual and by convention, to speak out against the cabinet once you're in cabinet. So think of it as a board of a company, to make it simple in the minds of those, simpler for those who may not have been familiar with the process. If you're on the board of a particular company, the board might scrap like tigers behind closed doors, but once a decision is made by the majority, the board members would not go out and speak out unless they have left.
Ooh,
and
not
then
me.
and then be in a better position to defend their positions. But once you're there, you're bound by it. So there's 2 things that happens. One, you'll have to vote along or abstain, which then gets tricky. People say, well, why did you abstain? But you can't breach the cabinet protocol or the manual unless you step away. And if you stay, then you're complicit and part of the decision. What we saw is this is clearly a set of events that is unhealthy for the country, that we do not want to be associated with, and to step away, and in some cases be able to be on the other side of the aisle to defend the country from there. Once explained in that context, and people began, oh, so you continued fighting, but you did it from a different post, because I didn't leave Parliament. The other 3 persons did not leave Parliament. That would be a different thing.
Right.
We change positions on the parliamentary field to better defend the country.
Okay, understood. A couple more questions, and we have limited time. We just have about 3 minutes left.
Okay.
So I want to know, for West Bay South in particular, we spoke about your accomplishments within government, but for your constituency in particular, for West Bay South, what have the changes you've been able to make, or a way forward for your constituents, and how do you hope to continue progressing with that if you were reelected?
It's mainly surrounds, well, it's 3 minutes left. We've
I
been
know,
here
yes.
for 27 minutes. Okay.
With no break.
Very then quickly, that in a nutshell, but that means coming back. We should come back. One, holding regular constituent and constituency meetings to keep in touch with persons. Hugely important. District cleanups, road improvements on Powell Smith, Ernest Action Drive, Garston Smith, with cleanups there, drains in particular areas, guardrails in particular areas, crosswalks with a pedestrian lighting. That was on West Church Street. So number of infrastructure projects. Also resolved constituency matters in terms of a freehold conversion matter for Lime Tree Bay that got done. There was a renumbering notice period that affected Yacht Drive that got done. There was the phase 1 refurbishment of what was St. Mary's, to do the phase 1 for Badabandoo Cemetery so that it looked like a proper cemetery. It still needs to continue with the design of the plots, but in the meantime, it has a new entrance. It's been cleaned up. It now looks like a proper cemetery with a rename that's more in line with the nomenclature of cemeteries in Cayman, that it's a geographical location. So now it's Badabandoo Cemetery. Continue to have improvements along further out in sort of Town Hall Road, traffic mirrors in certain places where people found it corners that they couldn't get out of their homes. There's a few more that I can think of that need to be done. And then securing funding for Morgan's dock to be replaced. Push for that over and over again. The funds have been approved. I understand the vendor has been approved, but procured. The coastal license has been approved. It's just for the infrastructure ministry to get started with it. So that, along with other West Bay members of caucus, push for that because it's hugely important for the economic activity for some of the operators in that area. A lot more work to do in terms of much more infrastructure. The country needs, not just in West Bay South, but all throughout the wider country, a proper stormwater management plan, because the rate in which and the patchwork of overdevelopment that's occurring, which is another thing that needs to be done much more coordinated fashion. You're now starting to see stormwater where it used to be a catchment area is built up, so then the water's flooding somewhere else. So I remember a few areas in West Bay South, like, I'm not wrong. This didn't used to flood when I first took office. Where is this coming from? And you're beginning to see the impact of where, and that's in the Plan Cayman document, to have a proper stormwater management plan for the country in her area and also Prospect. All areas
Touched on that a little bit, yeah.
are impacted by this. So there's a lot of work to do.
We have to wrap it up, but if there's any, I know there's so much to go. You were right. You could write a book. We could be here. It could be a long interview, but we got to go to the 8 a.m. news in, I'm going to say, less than a minute. So if there's any meetings, any events going on that you want people to know about that the Caymanian Community Party are putting on, please let us know now.
Our manifesto should be dropping either tonight or first thing tomorrow morning. Tomorrow is, of course, as you alluded to, the leaders debate. I think this one chamber allows you to call debate. The others are forums.
The other ones are forums.
But this one, they're
I'm glad you see the difference.
No, they drilled it into many of us. But this one, they have also drilled in that this is a debate.
Yes.
So it'll be interesting. It's historic. I don't think there's been a Cayman.
A chamber debate.
Chamber leaders debate. I
Yes.
think that's the first.
A leaders debate, yeah.
A leaders debate. I think that's the first in the history from what I read on their website and the letter that they presented to each leader. It's hopefully it will be an informative discussion, but you have to draw contrast as well. So even in my constituency and hers, you have to draw contrast. In my case, I can see that my opponent will have certain qualities and certain ideas, but at the same time, my case is that there's a experienced, tried and tested track record to have enormous body of work, so you can show that one person definitely has executed. The other person, you may not know how the execution would occur and to what volume. That's the contrast I would draw there, and at a national level, we will draw the contrast between the parties, their approach, and solutions.
Okay, and Natasha, any last words from you?
I would like to tell my native Red Bayers to please have a good day. Stay safe on the roads. It's still wet out there. And, have a great week. Upcoming next week on the 19th will be the Red Bay Easter egg hunt at the Prospect Park. And, we're looking forward to seeing all the kids and their parents there.
Okay.
One last thing, we have, as you may know, Youth Council that was
Yes.
established at least over a month ago. They're having an event this Saturday coming, so they'll be posting that, and that will be in West Bay South. That'll be at Morgan's Restaurant.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. I wish we had more time. We've got to go to the slightly after 8 a.m. news right now, and then I'll be back with more candidate interviews after the news.
Thank you. God bless.
Thank you.
Studio time now is 2 minutes past 8 o'clock, brought to you with the kind compliments of Foster's.
Feast without the fuss.
Make Foster's part of your tradition this year with our full holiday feast.
For $94.99, you can feed up to 8 with a full meal. Order online, pick up in store.
Choose your main from our 12-hour smoked pork, oven-roasted turkey, or maple-glazed ham.
Or indulge your guests with our extra special herb-roasted leg of lamb feast or a 7-pound fried snapper for $119.99.
Order your full Easter feast online today at fosters.ky.
Foster's, better because we care.
The 8 a.m. news is brought to you by ValueMed Pharmacy. Save time and order your prescription refills online at value-medpharmacy.com. VALU-medpharmacy.com.
For today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
With your latest news, I'm Carsley Fuller. Monday night's debate on Radio Cayman turned into a one-man show as independent Raul Gonzalez Jr. was the only candidate to turn up for Newlands.
I've lived in Newlands for over 24 years with my wife and raising our kids. And like many of you, I've felt the pressure day in, day out, trying to make ends meet and to care for our families and still hope for a better tomorrow.
This is not his first time running. In fact, he ran back in 2017 and 2021.
Nothing has changed. It has just got more heightened, more magnified. Promises, but the same struggles. So I believe the Newlands people and the Cayman Islands in a whole deserve better.
Mr. Gonzalez Jr. used his time to outline his priorities, discussing everything from the importance of alternative sources for produce and food to housing and education. You can watch the full discussion on Radio Cayman's YouTube channel and Facebook page. As you heard right here on Radio Cayman, January and February were big months for air arrivals, up 7.4% over the 2024 figures, with just under 86,000 visitors. What's new is that the figures have arrived for cruise arrivals, which were also up for January and February. According to the rcayman.ky website, the Department of Tourism clocked some 164,000 cruise ship arrivals in January, up from 149,000 in January of last year, and the highest number post-pandemic. February of 2025 saw some 145,000 cruise arrivals. That's a nearly 23% increase over the 119,000 seen in February 2024. So far, Cayman has welcomed just under 400,000 tourists. Cayman Finance has announced the passing of David Roberts, founder of Cayman Management and longstanding member of the Cayman Finance Board. Throughout his 20-year tenure as a director, Mr. Roberts played a, quote, pivotal role in shaping the direction and success of Cayman Finance. The organization says his leadership and vision were instrumental in guiding the organization through numerous challenges and milestones, with a, quote, lasting impact on the entire financial community in the Cayman Islands. Now with a check of international news, here's the BBC, which takes us out of the newscast. I'm Carsley Fuller.
BBC News, I'm John Shea. Growing numbers of Afghans living in Pakistan are being forcibly repatriated, according to the International Organization for Migration. The deadline for voluntary returns was at the end of March. More than 8,000 people have been sent to Afghanistan since then. Many fear reprisals if they're forced back. Gaza's Hamas-run Ministry of Health says 58 people have been killed by Israeli strikes over the last day. 19 Palestinians, some of them children, died in overnight strikes. A roof has collapsed at a nightclub in the Dominican Republic, killing at least 13 people and injuring dozens more. Rescue workers are scrambling through the rubble at the venue in the capital, Santo Domingo. Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has filed a criminal complaint against the opposition leader because of remarks he said were insulting. Özgür Özal had said Turkey was being run by a junta following the arrest of another prominent opposition figure, the mayor of Istanbul. South Korea says its troops fired warning shots at soldiers from North Korea who'd strayed over the shared border. It's not clear if the incursion was by accident or design. Meta is expanding its parental controls on Instagram, Facebook and Messenger. The changes mean under-16s will no longer be able to live stream on Instagram without parental permission. Meta will also blur images on direct messages containing suspected nudity. A Russian rocket has docked at the International Space Station with 2 Russians and an American astronaut on board. It's one of the few places where cooperation between the West and Russia has continued, despite tensions over the invasion of Ukraine. And Britain's Prince Harry is in court in London, fighting for personal police protection when he visits the country. The Prince's regular security detail was removed in 2020 after he announced he was moving to California and stepping back from royal duties. BBC News.
The 8 a.m. news is brought to you by ValueMed Pharmacy. Save time and order your prescription refills online at value-medpharmacy.com. VALU-medpharmacy.com.
Now, more than ever, supporting your immune system is crucial to helping your body fight off illnesses like the common cold, the flu, and COVID-19. At ValueMed Pharmacy on Walkers Road and in Buttontown, we carry all the essential vitamins and minerals to help support your immune system and improve your overall health. Some of our top immunity support picks are vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, elderberry, and quercetin are the popular 7-in-1 immunity support. Our pharmacists are always on hand to help guide you and answer any questions. Visit ValueMed Pharmacy on Walkers Road or Buttontown. Live happy, live healthy with ValueMed Pharmacy.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman with the latest up-to-date, accurate news and information. For your convenience, the headline news will be repeated on our sister station, Breeze 105.3 FM, weekdays at 8:30 a.m. Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or download the Radio Cayman app in the App Store or log on to www.radiocayman.gov.ky and stay connected to what's happening in the community. Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio. The Lions Club of Grand Cayman is proud to continue to serve our island community. During the last Lionistic year, they successfully carried out community projects like the Prostate and Colon Cancer Awareness Campaign, site screenings, spelling bees, swim meets, and their community food pantry. The Lions Club of Grand Cayman looks forward to continuing their service during the 2024-2025 Lionistic year and for many more years to come. The Lions Club of Grand Cayman. Where there's a need, there's a lion, serving the community for over 50 years. Your voice matters. Your vote counts.
If you or someone you know may have difficulty getting to your designated polling locations on general election and referendum day on the 30th of April, you should apply for mobile voting.
You don't have to miss your chance to vote.
If you're in the hospital, a rest home, or are unable to leave your home, if you have a physical disability that makes it difficult to vote in person, or if you'll be working on general election and referendum day and will be unable to get to the polls,
apply for mobile voting. The deadline to apply is the 17th of April. Visit elections.ky or call 949-8047 for more information and assistance. Your vote matters, and the Elections Office wants to make sure it's heard.
The 8 a.m. weather update brought to you by
CG Britcay, where people come first.
Pleasant good morning. Let's take a look at the latest weather report. Current temperature is 82 degrees. Relative humidity is 80%. The barometric pressure is 29.91 inches and rising. The wind is east at 3 knots. Overnight low was 75 degrees. Synopses indicate isolated showers can be expected as moisture within a light to moderate southeasterly wind flow moves across Grand Cayman area, and seas will be slight to moderate in open waters. Radar images show isolated showers in and around the Cayman area, moving towards the northwest. Now the forecast for the Cayman Islands for today, calling for partly cloudy skies, becoming cloudy at times with a 40% chance of showers. Temperatures will be in the mid to upper 80s today with the heat index near 95 degrees Fahrenheit. It's going to be a hot day. Winds will be south to southeast at 5 to 10 knots, and seas will be slight to moderate with wave heights of 2 to 4 feet. Tonight, partly cloudy skies, becoming cloudy at times with a 40% chance of showers, and temperatures falling to the upper 70s tonight. Winds will be south to southwest at 5 to 10 knots, and seas will be slight to moderate with wave heights of 2 to 4 feet. We're presently at a high tide, and the next low tide will be this afternoon at 1:47, and a high tide again tonight at 7:49. The sun will set this evening at 6:40 and will rise tomorrow morning at 6:13. And the outlook is calling for continued increase in chance of showers as a cold front is expected to move into the Cayman area by late tomorrow night. Some swells are likely along the west and northern coast. And that's the very latest on your weather report.
I was undercover and had just recovered the stolen artwork, but...
Aunt Angie, what does this have to do with managing my insurance?
Well, long story long. I found the art thief in France, but ended up becoming somewhat of a local celebrity. So I had to stick around for a while. But I was able to handle all my insurance needs with CG's online portal.
The online portal. Safe, convenient, simple. CG Britcay. Good like that.
The 8 a.m. weather update brought to you by
CG Britcay, where people come first.
There's nothing more important than your health, and seeking expert healthcare with physicians you can trust is what you deserve. UHealth, the University of Miami Health System, offers peace of mind to you and your family with a first-class experience. Our patient coordinators assist with everything you need before, during, and after your stay with us. As South Florida's only academic-based health system, UHealth offers cutting-edge treatment, compassionate care, and life-changing results just a flight away. Learn more at umiamihealth.org/international.
Social media, X, formerly Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Interact with our talk shows on YouTube. Download our official Radio Cayman app, or you can log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky. You can also add us to WhatsApp
on 925-3261.
All the latest information, breaking news, community events, and more. Radio Cayman.
The traffic report is brought to you by Subway. Enjoy a delicious start to your day with breakfast from Subway.
Good morning. Let's take a look at what's happening on the roads. Coming from the West Bay 4-way, start flowing moderately, as well as on the West Bay Road in front of the Ritz. Godfrey Nixon Way and Eastern Avenue, traffic is flowing at a good pace in both directions. Heading towards the Industrial Park area, traffic is flowing moderately. Steady traffic coming off of Bobby Thompson Way and Agnes Way, as well as on the Linford Pearson Highway. Slight delays expected. And that's what's happening on your roads. Join us again at about 10 minutes past 12 o'clock. We'll give you another look at traffic.
Subway and Oreo has changed the dessert game. Introducing the Oreo footlong cookie, a full 12 inches of chocolatey, creamy goodness. It's big, it's bold, and it's here for a limited time. Perfect for sharing or not. We won't judge. Want it fast? Order ahead with the Subway Cayman Islands app for quick pickup and earn loyalty points, or get it delivered straight to your door with Bento and Let's Eat. Don't wait. Treat yourself today. The Oreo footlong cookie is calling your name. Subway. Eat fresh. Snack sweet.
The traffic report is brought to you by Subway. Enjoy a delicious start to your day with breakfast from Subway.
The Buzz with your host, Kathy Miller.
Good morning. Welcome back to The Buzz. I am your host, Kathy Miller. I hope everybody's having a safe and happy little drive into work today. We've been in studio since 7:30 this morning. Started off with candidate interviews. We had two candidates from the Caymanian Community Party, and now I'm happy to welcome somebody you all know. All our listeners know, and you should have known because it's been about 17 years he was on radio with us. So I'm happy to welcome Mr. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks, a independent candidate for West Bay South. Good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning, Miss Kathy. It is truly an honor for me to be here. I am honestly grateful to all of the voters across the country, in particular the West Bay South voters, and it's interesting to see how people are not just receptive, but their invitations include an opportunity to chat with them, not only about specific needs to their household, their neighborhoods, but increasingly more of us are starting to appreciate how as a country there is this growing need to ensure that we are united. And I think that stands with the leadership setting that example, inviting participation, extending the invitation for a greater sense of inclusion, because all of our problems impact all of us. I think at the priority, as was emphasized at our Chamber Forum, as I said about it, the main thing is quality of life. That impacts and underpins everything. And when we think quality of life, we're not only, as we should emphasize specifically, the safety and the security and the stability, not just politically, not just economically, but social cohesion, social harmony, the individual safety and security that we enjoy as we're walking the beach or running in the dikes, the way we traverse our roads, whether that is safe driving or an extended, frustrated commute, leaving home to get to work or school. So as I look at moving about, West Bay South, the wider West Bay community, but the Cayman Islands as a whole, all of these issues are issues that are important to the individual and to the entire country. So as we address, as elected parliamentarians, what I was honored is former Member of Parliament, Mr. Arden McLean, coming on our manifesto launch. We released it officially to the media last week, Monday.
I have it right here, right in front of me. I was just combing through this right before we started.
Yeah. We had the hard copies in hand. We sent it out to the media and then to the wider community on Saturday evening. It's an opportunity to have a tangible document. It's prepared in a way that it is an invitation because of its preparation. It was a collaborative effort. Input from the community, from friends, far and near, from as close as West Bay and as far as West End. This is a document that reflects what we as a country need. It represents input for all. I am prepared, to champion that because it's important to have an individual. As I listen to Mr. Arden McLean share his thoughts, my father always reminds us, if your classmates, your contemporaries can say good things about you, then it's probably that, it's a good. But when older people, more experienced in life, from their seafaring days, from their parliamentary sort of process, people like Mr. Arden, for instance.
Are you calling Arden older than you in that sense?
I said more experience. The same,
more seasoned.
More seasoned, more experience. But to share, and he identified that here's someone who, in speaking to me, speaking about me, it brings a balanced perspective, being able to reach across party lines, reach across the floor of the House, and invite participation, collaboration, understanding that the approach of elected members of the House to work together, that, instead of our differences dividing us, let's use those unique strengths. And again, that's where this focus and emphasis on quality of life for all of us. It'll not just look at immigration. It'll encompass education. It'll talk about how we access health care. As a country, that elderly person to that mother with that very young child, healthcare needs to be not just accessible, it needs to be affordable. One of the things that I want us to look at, it's not just because it was once and no longer is. What about our students in school? Why are we now paying healthcare, right? As some would see, many of us do not have it. But our folks who have worked and have retired, who may now, thankfully, after years of paying a loan at the bank, they own their own homes, but financially, they're on a reduced income. It may be a fixed income because of if they now have put in sufficient years and have some pension payment, that probably is insufficient amount to pay their living expenses. But if the healthcare costs from, could not just bankrupt them, but could limit their ability to get just wellness checks, on a regular basis, that should not be something that weighs over our heads. So if we look at that, can we see the need for a country to provide that level of respect by ensuring that some of the most vulnerable, as we talk about, our children and our elderly, having adequate health care that is affordable but also accessible?
What do you think are the biggest barriers when it comes to accessible health care?
I think it is our approach that for some reason, we have to have money to have health care. If you can't pay the premium, you can't get a policy. Or B, if you have another approach, we unfortunately want to malign by labeling it as socialism or some other political system. It is, by its very definition, a public good for those who look at it, a human right. We all should have a level of health and wellness. And to deny someone the human right to get adequate health care, not only in an emergency, and not only when they're ill, but just generally.
Not only when they have the money.
And not only when they have their money, but even then, right? If you look at businesses, for instance, it may be one or two or three partners, or it may be one key individual. A significant health issue could not only impact that business because of that individual no longer being, able to work or no longer at that business, but it would bankrupt that family. We don't need to go that far. There are many in West Bay South who have worked long, as it is in all across the Cayman Islands. They are now 60, 65, 70, 75. They are living in that home that they've always dreamed of, or they finally paid for. And that asset may have a great financial value. If we were to assess them, we'd probably say, well, you own this, you own that. But why are we going to disrespect them by causing them to feel that they need to go to some entity for some handout? Politicians, I think, have too often. The recent report that just came out this week looking at what the country's finances will be. We will, as a nation, appreciate if we leverage the skill sets of our civil service more, of the people in this country. We have a fantastic array of experience and expertise, but we have a willingness. So as an elected MP for West Bay South, I'm happy to champion that by having the great respect and recognition of those people in our country. But the latest financial report indicates significant challenges to the expenditure. I don't think it is possible to say in one breath that you have put forward lots of legislation and in the same vein try to distance yourself from being a part of the government that has now contributed to this expense and excess expenditure. Right? That report indicates, for instance, that there was a threefold increase in, say, financial assistance. Politicians cannot use government's resources and cannot continue to be expected to use it without accountability as a personal slush fund. The money that is given to the country through financial assistance or otherwise is the country's money. It is not the individual politician. And I think we need to move away that. And as voters, I'm glad to see that increasingly they are feeling disrespected and no longer would want that level of being able to, as my mother would say, to have to beg or behold to somebody. We need to get to a place where we return that semblance of respect. And I'm asking voters to understand they deserve that. What we're trying to achieve as a nation as we build each other up is to have a leadership that is respectful and resourceful, is accessible, but also has that semblance of unity, a vision that brings people together for the betterment of the country. All hinges on the quality of life.
I want you to repeat something that you had said, just because I want to make sure it's clear.
Mm-hmm.
You had said something along the lines of you can't champion pushing through so much legislation while also not, is it having, understanding that you were responsible for the deficit that the country's in right now?
Yeah, you have to,
am I correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. What they say, take the good with the bad sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Because that didn't just happen overnight or the past few months.
No, Dr. Tensor's report indicated that just even the last 2 years, significant expenditure. But right now, that pre-election report with our finances indicate significant deficit. That's not on one individual.
Right.
Right? And
that's
if
across
you,
government as a whole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you were a cabinet member, and in particular deputy premier, you are as much a part of that deficit being as significant as it is. Legislation in this country may be championed by a politician. It may be possible to take credit for it. But the work, the technical work, the drafting, all of that is within the civil service. Right? Not just the legislative drafters, but the policy formulation. We understand that when we have private sector and other stakeholders weighing in, that's great. You as a politician elected, you present it, for debate and hopefully passage with, requisite amendments. You can take credit for that, absolutely. But you also need to accept responsibility for when the government is said to, as we are now potentially facing. We have to go to the UK with cap in hand, asking permission. Potentially, could that lead us to the UK saying, well, we're going to have to impose a greater sense of control, direct rule, you're not able to manage your finances. That didn't happen by others, that happened by the people who were there in the cabinet. And unfortunately, the incumbent member for West Bay South is as much responsible for that, if not wholly responsible. As a financial services minister, he was a key part. As deputy premier, a key and an integral part of the country's governance.
How do you think, if you were elected, that you would steer the ship in a different way?
We look, right, as a country individually. What I think we're failing to understand is important that you need an approach to leadership that understands that there's every opportunity to harness the energies you have, but you need a person who looks at it beyond the accounting and the finance, their economic costs to what we do and what we don't. I think oftentimes in this last administration, you may have seen the tumultuous nature, and we may have asked ourselves, well, why? And maybe we may have inadvertently drawn the wrong conclusions. So if the cabinet of the day isn't able to rely on one of its own, if it doesn't find that individual to be as trustworthy, if the word that is given in the morning isn't the word in agreement that they can rely on in the afternoon. So I would start initially by ensuring that our elected, because of the mutual respect we have for each other, the trust that we place, that we put in country first. But there's also an appreciation that the money that is expended has to ensure that we get value for it. There are many efficiencies in government that if we allow the civil service to function, as opposed to the pet projects of many politicians, the willingness almost by some to ensure that this thing is done here at the expense of the country. This last 4 years, if you look at West Bay in general as a whole, a lot of money was spent, or to generally indicate almost $1 billion, but very little has been achieved in terms of capital works. A little piece of road paved here, a little piece there, a speed bump there, a traffic light there. That
doesn't come to $1 billion.
Well, no.
Maybe it does.
Not in
I have to look at the report.
Yeah, not in any conversion.
Gotcha.
Right?
We have to go to a commercial break right now, but when we come back, we did have a question come in for you via WhatsApp, so we're going to address that question once.
Thank you.
Once we return from these messages.
I'm Michael Webster.
And I'm Denise Brown of Cayman Insurance Center.
Family is not the most important thing, it's everything.
We have worked with the community and their families on protecting themselves for the future.
Whether it's providing top-rated life insurance
or protecting your family's household investment.
From our family to yours, we understand and we care.
I'm Denise Brown. Call me at 814-7229.
And I'm Michael Webster at 925-5433.
We are Cayman Insurance Center.
Specializing in property, life, and other lines of insurance products and services at an affordable rate. We are Michael and
Denise at Cayman Insurance Center.
Call today.
Looking for fresh, healthy food that's full of flavor? Then you've got to visit Kirk Market. Our dishes are made with fresh, high-quality ingredients. Enjoy vibrant mixed greens or satisfying pasta salads. Or try one of our delicious grill options like blackened chicken, spicy beef steak, or grilled salmon. Looking for something light and flavorful? We've got sushi rolls and poke bowls prepared daily. And don't forget to explore a hot bar or Billy Fresh salad at the salad bar. Stop by Kirk Market today for breakfast, lunch, or dinner and taste the difference. Eat well, live well with Kirk Market.
Tune in every Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. for Radio Cayman's Midday Newscast. Radio Cayman, the People's Station, your trusted official source for the latest news. The 12 p.m. news is proudly brought to you by Health City Cayman Islands. World-class healthcare within your reach.
The Buzz with your host, Kathy Miller.
Good morning and welcome back to The Buzz. I am your host, Kathy Miller, and we are featuring candidates all morning long. And right now we have with me from West Bay South, independent candidate, Mr. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks. And none of you are unfamiliar with Sterling. Well, you know I call him Dwayne, so it's going to be Dwayne forever for me. Even if you were to be elected, I don't think I could call you anything but Dwayne. And so if they're like, you must say sir, I'll be like, well, ma'am. Do you know how long I've been saying Dwayne? We got a question from one of our listeners, and that is a question I'm going to pose to you now. So this is, I don't know why they asked 12 more questions. Okay, so good morning. Can you please ask Mr. Ebanks how he would expect to pay for national insurance without also spending any money for that level of care? What level of care would he be willing to provide? Is it premier plan service and coverage of SHIC plan?
Thanks, Kathy. It is, as my parents christened me, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks, and closest family says Dwayne is endearing, so you are welcome. Sterling, they say, is your formal first name, so that's great. I'll answer to either. But I will be prepared to stand and be accountable as I accept responsibility. I think one of the things that we have to move away from is labels. Premium plan, SHIC plan. Why do we assign labels? Healthcare should be healthcare, should be accessible. The country, if we look at the adoption of national health insurance, national health care for all of us, we pay taxes, we can call it fees, we can call it whichever. But those fees, those taxes that are paid aren't put into health care. It's put into an insurance premium that runs as a profit, hopefully for those businesses, and that is fine. But it's at the expense of the insured, to that individual that is paying this monthly premium, thinking that there is a coverage to this extent under whatever plan and how it's defined. What I think is important is that we look at it from a country's perspective, and instead of having one plan for civil servants as an entity, 1,000 plans for 1,000 different companies with their collected employees, we could have one national health plan. In our medical system, if we look at the Health Services Authority, we're seeing through the budget significant commitments of expenditure. People asking, well, why are we paying for those? Would you not want that if that were you? It just shows you how expensive healthcare is, not just because of the amount of money, but the life that is there is worth it. It's worth it for John. I'm sure the individual listening would also be worth it for her or for him. If we harness that collective, the economies of scale that could come from a wider pool of people participating in this plan, there'll still be profits for the healthcare providers. It'll be less costly for the government. There are a couple of ways to approach that. One, we could contract out to a single health insurance provider for a 5, 7, or 10 year, as we do with the provision of school lunches or any other thing. You have now a bidding process. We want you to provide health care for the country, for the 100,000 people, for the 50,000 people. That premium should be less because there's a larger volume of contributors. The same as a large organization for profit company, as a multinational, would do for its entire employees. We've seen that in Cayman with many who have a presence here, but also has employees across the globe. What they offer their employees is cheaper than what, for a good plan, than those employees can buy to be compliant with Cayman legislation for a less sort of, lesser plan when it comes to the benefits.
How would you propose that gets paid for? Would it be increased taxes or fees? Or
we don't need to even increase taxes. Taxes are already there. We can just reallocate some of the funding that we have, and it doesn't have to come specifically out of a government vote. It could come, that's the second option. It could come as a country. Instead of that money that we pay in individually, it could be paid at a lower sum, a reduced amount, into one plan. 10 individuals buying £10 each of bananas may pay, $1 a pound. If those 10 collectively come together and as 100, we're buying the same 100, that single purchase, 3 corners of scale, could be 50 cents, 70 cents. They'll get the same product for lesser money because collectively they purchase it. That is no different from a larger pool of individuals participating. What we want isn't just for it to be of lesser cost. We want the same, if not better, services, right? And you get that by larger volumes. With our health insurance, it doesn't have to be the burden that people present it to be. It hasn't equally to be disrespected in the way for the recipients, or we label them by the policy that they have. We malign them by declaring them medically indigent. The initial example of that individual who may have that wonderful dream home on acres of land or a small piece near or on the water, it doesn't mean that that person has the significant financial wealth that we perceive, but because we assess their property value without equally understanding their cash flow. And we may deny them access to health care because of that, financial assessment.
Right.
But we're disrespecting that person who has worked for decades to now finally be rewarded with that sacrifice, that investment in this wonderful home. We are doing that to too many of our people, and then we are further, causing them to feel as if they got to beg and behold to politicians who, again, would use, whether it's the NAU, for instance, as a slush fund for their own sort of personal, campaigning, their personal promotion, whether directly or by inference. Many of us believe that comes from the politician, that comes from government coffers. That money is taxpayers' money. It just needs to be realigned, redirected in order to gain greater efficiencies.
All right, I'm cognizant of the time here, so we gotta, in about 2 minutes, we gotta wrap up because we gotta go to the next interview. These are shorter little interviews that we're doing on the Buzz. With that being said, you have a couple minutes that if you want to leave any other messages with our listeners, what your priorities are, if you have any upcoming meetings, anything like that, now's your time to do so.
Thank you, and thanks really, Cayman, for this opportunity. My manifesto is on my website. If you go on, sterlingforwestbaysouth.com, it's there. It houses in it 3 key areas that when broken down, it'll look at a think tank that will help us to generate our policies that would harness, all that energy, that industriousness, that experience and expertise that we have in our country, so that we are talking, to issues. There is, through the Eagle Initiative, we'll focus on education, agriculture, leadership, and entrepreneurship. And then through the Christ Project, we're looking at having the community coming together, initiatives that foster things. We would want, and I certainly, as a personal vested interest in seeing us respect not just our elders, not just our youth, but those members of our community who through, their lives have certain, learning and or physical challenges. I would want us as a country to immediately invest in the construction of a new purpose-built facility for the Sunrise Adult Training Center. As a teenager, before that came to fruition, I was honored to be able to volunteer countless hours with many students to do something that gave them. And then finally, the Golden Age Home, where our elderly, our West Bay Clinic, our nurses healthcare clinic, to be expanded so that we offer greater resources to our community. Those are the capital projects that would come immediately, and I would like to see that come to fruition.
Okay, I know I said I'm going to give you 1 minute to answer this, and I really mean 1 minute because a question came in that I want to make sure that this listener gets it out. Mr. Ebanks, with all the oil prices with oil prices low again at $60 per barrel, why isn't OFREG mandating that CUC purchase excess diesel to store strategically either on island or near?
I think this is where leadership is key. The OFREG board under its its present chair has done great things to facilitate not just CUC and the utilities, but the telecoms. That I think has to be supported by, an Honorable J.E. Ebanks as the responsible minister has shown what can happen when you have that wherewithal. The flip side of that is if you start, like the inference to the question about healthcare, a political leader mandating, would it be looked at as dictating? For me, the price of oil is an external force that impact us. CUC as a business, as part of its licensing regime, should be required to ensure that it has, through its purchasing, whether options otherwise, to have the requisite reserves, but equally important, to be able to purchase so that those savings come down as that license comes up. And it is, I think, something that I'll look at closer for the review, which is beneficial to have lower prices for us, translating into, again, the quality of life through the reduced cost of living. So you see, this needs... Thank you, Ms. Yad.
Wow. I gave him a little signal to be like, okay, you got to wrap it up. He just ended it right then.
Of course.
No, thank you. Thank you for answering the questions that came in from our listeners via WhatsApp. And it was great to have you. I wish we could speak longer. I wish we could speak longer. You're the one who really brought me into filling in for you when you were a Talk Today host. And now I'm doing the buzz on my own.
Well,
so,
if I may, thank you. And this is what leadership does. Leadership does. You bring people along, you encourage them, you show them by example. You nurture them. Yes. At the end of the day, you provide the example. And that is something that I am happy. If I've done that, it's who I am. That's what I try to do.
I'm forever grateful for that as well. So thank you for joining us this morning on The Buzz. We've got a next candidate interview coming right up. So we're going to go to a quick commercial break and then we're going to transition.
Looking for fresh, healthy food that's full of flavor? Then you've got to visit Kirk Market. Our dishes are made with fresh, high-quality ingredients. Enjoy vibrant mixed greens or satisfying pasta salads. Or try one of our delicious grill options like blackened chicken, spicy beef steak, or grilled salmon. Looking for something light and flavorful? We've got sushi rolls and poke bowls prepared daily. And don't forget to explore a hot bar or Billy Fresh salad at the salad bar. Stop by Kirk Market today for breakfast, lunch, or dinner and taste the difference. Eat well, live well with Kirk Market.
For the Health of It, heard on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. and repeated on Saturdays at 9:30 a.m. Brought to you by UHealth International, University of Miami Health System. International patients go to UHealth International for consultations with renowned physicians, advanced treatment technologies, leading-edge medical therapies, and state-of-the-art surgical procedures. Whatever your particular reason for going to UHealth International, you will receive customized medical care delivered within a compassionate, multicultural setting. The care you need when you need it.
Your voice matters. On April 30th, you'll be asked for your view on cruise berthing infrastructure. Would it boost tourism? What effects would construction have on the marine ecosystem? Can we handle more cruise passengers? Are there other ways to make tourism grow? On April 30th, you steer the country. Vote in the national referendum. Visit gov.ky/referendum to learn more.
The Water Authority invites its Cayman Brac customers to join the celebration. The Authority's distribution network has now reached Spot Bay. To mark this milestone, the Authority will host a special customer event on Wednesday, the 9th of April, at the entrance of Long Beach from 3:30 p.m. to 5 p.m. Attendees can register for pipe water service and enter to win one of 3 Water Authority gift certificates valued at $500, $250, and $100. Join us to celebrate this achievement for Cayman Brac.
The Buzz with your host, Kathy Miller.
Good morning. Welcome back to The Buzz. I'm your host, Kathy Miller, and in studio with me now, I have Miss Dawn Thomas. She's a Red Bay candidate with the Cayman Islands National Party. So good morning, Dawn. How are you doing?
Morning. I'm doing pretty good. Only had 1 cup of coffee, so, not as good as I could be doing with 2, but pretty good.
We are aligned because you cannot talk to me unless I've had some coffee in the morning. Even then, it's a little, and it starts early, so I'm really on my second giant cup of coffee. So I get it. Yeah. I get it. If I'd known, I would have had some ready for you as well.
Next time I'll send a message in advance.
Yes, absolutely. I got you. Well, this is our first time chatting.
Yes.
So I think I spoke to you on nomination day when you were coming through the Georgetown, the John Gray Gym with the Cayman Islands National Party. And
yes.
I met you then, and you were very forthcoming. You introduced yourself, and I was like, okay, I like this because I like the confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's important. You're running for a leadership role for the country.
Yep.
And it's important that you put yourself out there, introduce yourself, all the rest. So I didn't see that from everybody. So when I see that, I'm like, aha, these things stand out to me. So, right before we began this, I said, I'm going to ask you about leadership and governance and what it means to you. So that question off the bat, me saying that I liked your initiative and showing some leadership and confidence when you came up to me. So what does leadership and governance mean to you?
I think let's just start by saying leadership is something when you step forward to do it, people want to listen, they admire, and they follow. That means you're leading by example with integrity, values, you're honest, you're transparent, but you do that confidently, and when you watch me sometimes when I speak, I sometimes exude that confidence. Inside, though, I might not be as confident, but but it also means that it's a position that you lead with your brain, but you also listen to your heart. That is a true leader. And a leader in this time and day in Cayman has to have both, because as we watch what's going on in our country and the situation for our people getting worse and worse, you have to have smart people that know that have a heart, that want to tackle those things first and not necessarily do the other things that aren't necessarily benefiting them.
Okay, I like that. Now, you have over 30 years of experience in business transformation, technology, project management. How do you plan to leverage this experience to address the challenges facing Red Bay? And more so, I want to say, how do you plan to leverage that experience when it comes to governance, should you be elected?
Sure. So I'll break that down. So my background is, at the core, it's accounting and technology. And how I plan to leverage that, I think, let's start with the community first, because I think it's an easier answer. Communities right now are filled with people that get up in the morning early, go to work, and they come home in the evening. There's very little time for that sort of sense of community. But where communities thrive in this day and age is when there is a cause. And you can create those causes either by, having something that they can celebrate or having issues that they're focusing on. And the transparency of that, I think I will put in place ways to do that. So, for instance, one of my initiatives as a community, day 1, day 2, let's not be, is to put together a unemployment register for the Red Bay community. I want to know who in my constituency is unemployed. That helps me get a sense of the people in my area. But and I'll take that a step further. I'd like to create a web portal where all Red Bay residents can go in and see all of the initiatives going on within the community. Not things only that we celebrate, but also issues that we're facing. And as an MP, I promise to be transparent in updating that portal so that everyone can know where we're at. And it's not like the questions, well, where are we with that cut-through road between Selkirk and Bimini? The answer should be up front and on the web. And so bringing that technology initiatives to the table. Now, I also understand we have people in our community that are not as technology savvy. And for that, I will find other ways to communicate, whether it be on WhatsApp for general specific things, or I'm always going to be accessible in terms of answering those questions. And in making my rounds, I'm going to try to keep those things up if I can. We'll see. On a national level, definitely bringing some skills to the table here. I am I'm a go-getter kind of woman. I just get things done, but I see solutions. I don't see problems. So usually I am thinking of the solution as people start to discuss problems. And I'm bringing that to the table simply because I think there's a lot of tech in government we can do. Government is broken down into silos. So even when you look at physical responsibility within government, there's very siloed And the information isn't always put together in a nice package. So you can't always make informed decisions when you're doing. So perhaps that's why we've had the runaway train with our financial budgets lately, is because, or maybe they just don't understand, or they're not aware, or whatever it may be. But my point is, we shouldn't put the country or my people in this position because of your ignorance. We need to get people who actually understand, or if you don't have access to the information, people that can actually make the right decisions for the benefit of the people on actual figures, not at the whim, which then puts us in other issues. So bringing my digital transformation, I would look to very much break down the silos within government, put a cohesiveness on the information that we have, start sharing data across the entities, and actually start to make decisions based on the data sets, not segregated data sets, but whole data sets. And I'm trying not to be too technical here because I'm a very techie. So,
no, I like it. I think it's great because I think off the bat you said two things that resonated with me. I love the idea of you wanting to have a website for Red Bay that you can give the updates, let people know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
That just seems like a no-brainer to me. And, you know, with your tech side, that's easy to get done, right? You can do that.
And fostering that too would be putting in place sort of the district councils who would be able to champion.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping within 60 days, if elected, I would be able to, you know, put the district council positions out for, have people apply for them, have people vote on the positions, and then the district council would drive the information for the portal, and I as an MP would keep that updated and work with the district members to disseminate that information within the community. I think, you know, we all knew there is a sense of community there. We all saw it during COVID when we didn't have to go to work.
Yes.
Work disrupts communities, and the only way to bring communities together is information. So we've got to put the information where it's accessible and they can access it, but also keep in mind of the types of people within the community, like those that are not necessarily online.
I love it. I think it's a no-brainer, and I think it's a great way just to get people in touch with each other and know what's going on within their community.
Correct.
And you have plans. So you are a woman with a plan for sure. And you're very easily letting us know what these plans are. So I think that's a really great quality with you as a candidate for Red Bay. The other thing that stood out to me that you said, you want to have an unemployment register for the people in Red Bay. You want to know who's not
Yes.
working and perhaps how you can help.
Yeah, so I've started doing that in the background. So the unemployment register is ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
I've already done that. I did it on a Sunday all by myself.
Not surprised.
Not surprised. The thing about it is, though, it came to me even more as I walked the community. There are a lot of unemployment. There is a lot of unemployment in Red Bay, more so than I expected. I'm a resident of Red Bay. And I've started pairing people up with jobs already. We're sending them resumes, checking on things on my own without any initiatives, without any waiting to be elected. But my point is that I need to know who these people are. I want to be champions for these people. I don't want them to struggle on their own to find employment, because these unemployment issues stem from systemic problems within our society. And those systemic problems is exactly why I'm being voted in to address. So these are things that I need to understand and where they're at. I also want to create more opportunities for kids to get employment for summers, after school, weekends. I want to use this register to drive that. Right now, our kids don't get opportunities to gain experience earlier in their ages because they're being replaced by cheap labor.
Right.
There are things for our kids to be able to do, whether they can, and there's laws for this, 14 hours a week. They can do weekends. They can do odd jobs here and there. They can have summer plans, but they don't get those opportunities because we have cheap labor. And there's no reason why we can't start to foster initiatives like that for they're not unemployed, but they are needing experience, and we can start that experience early, and they can get paid for that.
I was talking with a young Caymanian on the weekend about early, maybe kind of mid-20s, and he had said to me that he had expressed needing a job, and this is for the previous elections, and that the candidate in his district who was voted in at that time promised him he's going to get him something. And he said, now I can't see that job. But he still went and got himself a job, and he's doing all right.
The amount of kids I see in Red Bay that are first of all, that have finished their school. They have either their bachelor's or their master's. But not only those kids that are in their early 20s, but just the ones that my 13-year-old son is desperate to get a job. He wants to, because his mother refuses to buy him a jet ski.
Yep. That's when I started working, I think a little younger than that, so I understand.
He just wants a part-time job to be able to do that. And so and that's okay. That shows him, that is him putting the initiative in. He's saying, I'm willing to put in the work. And so he's not a lazy kid. But what I don't want for him to do is sit home for the 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and then you put them into the workforce. They're willing to do that from an early age.
Right.
We got to create ways for them to do that. And it can't happen, unfortunately, because we have cheap labor. There's no pun there, but, those are some of the opportunities that our kids really, really need. And we need to start to create programs for that. And I'd like to champion that initiative as well.
I think it's great. We're only going to have a couple minutes, but I have to ask this question. Now, you said that you're walking the streets of Red Bay and hearing what your constituents have to say. So for you, what are the biggest concerns and that you're hearing from them, and how do you hope to address them? And I know you mentioned a couple already. So aside from those that you've mentioned with the unemployment and hopefully building more of a community, what else is it?
I think one of the number one things I'm hearing in Red Bay is, well, obviously the future of the kids comes up quite a bit. It's just a blanket thing. But everyone's really concerned about, they've managed to acquire things as parents, but their kids, they don't see much of a future for them. And it goes back to a number of things. One, they all want education is a number one thing coming up in Red Bay. Education. And there are a number of initiatives around that we could do. We could look at early development. We can look at technical vocational programs. We can change the curriculums. This is 2025. The curriculum hasn't changed. There are a number of jobs out there that aren't even being taught in schools or on registers. So for instance, there's videography, there's all sorts of it. There's so much we could be doing with education that we're not doing. I think that's one. Some of the other issues coming up is obviously everyone's concerned about the traffic and coming out of Red Bay and turning left or right. It just seems like a speed trap. So traffic is a key concern because people are getting up in the morning and going to work and they're having to go earlier and earlier just to try. So that's another key initiative for them. So getting in that master ground transportation plan, getting buses running. I'd catch a bus if I could rely on the time that it would come as well. So those are some of the things. I mean, I think the other thing is just the national issues across the board. Everyone is concerned about, we have so many issues, I don't even know where to start. The country is in such dire need of progress and not just talked about every 4 years like a menu.
Right. Like it's a passing thing.
Like it's a passing thing. So there's so many ways I could start. I would say those were some of the key national issues. But like I said, there's so much more we could go on. And it's depending on where you are in the Red Bay community, it changes slightly. So, for one, it may be the cost of living. But most of all, it all resonates. Everyone says the same thing. I am really, really concerned about the future of my children in this country and their opportunities for a successful life in this country. And I think that is, if not for them, then who for? We need to fight for our children.
Agreed. Thank you, Dawn. I really appreciate it. And that was a quick 15 minutes we had. We're at the slightly after 9 a.m. news headlines right now, but I appreciate you sharing some of your ideas and what your plans are.
Yeah.
You've hit that ground running.
Thank you.
So Red Bay candidates with the Cayman Islands National Party. Thank you so much for joining me. I wish it could be longer, but I know that I'm pretty sure you'll be on our other shows, whether it's Talk Today, whether it's For the Record. So we'll hear more from you.
All right. Great. Thank you for having me. I appreciate that, Kathy.
Thank you. Let's go to the slightly after 9 a.m. headline news.
From Radio Cayman's newsroom, this is Headlines. Local, regional, international news.
The headline news is brought to you by Kirk Market and Health Services Authority.
Rotary Central hosted the 19th annual Bill Rudy Science Fair on Saturday at the Camana Bay Arts and Recreation Center. It featured a record 97 registered projects, which spanned scientific disciplines like earth sciences, food and health, life sciences, physics, chemistry, and computer science. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has publicly acknowledged for the first time that his troops are active in Russia's Belgorod region, which borders Ukraine. He said on Monday, quote, "We continue to carry out active operations in the border areas on enemy territory, and that is absolutely just. War must remain where it came from. His comments also referred to Russia's Kursk region, where Ukraine still holds a small area after a major offensive last year. Moscow has retaken most of the territory. And there's a snow white wolf on the cover of Time magazine today, accompanied by a headline announcing the return of the dire wolf. This now extinct species is possibly most famous for its fictional role in Game of Thrones, but it did exist more than 10,000 years ago. The company Colossal Biosciences is behind today's headlines, announcing using, quote, deft genetic engineering and ancient DNA, they bred 3 direwolf puppies to de-extinct the species. Although independent experts say they're not actually dire wolves, but instead genetically modified gray wolves. Those are your headlines. I'm Karsley Fuller.
More news available at www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Check out our social media pages: Facebook, YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, Radio Cayman Headline News.
Do you have a healthcare question but not sure who to ask? Contact HSA's Patient Call Center to speak to one of our experienced clinical team members. We are here to answer your questions and help guide you through your healthcare journey. Need to make an appointment? Our team can help. Contact HSA at 949-8600 or email info@hsa.ky. At HSA, we are committed to caring for you.
Looking for fresh, healthy food that's full of flavor? Then you've got to visit Kirk Market. Our dishes are made with fresh, high-quality ingredients. Enjoy vibrant mixed greens or satisfying pasta salads. Or try one of our delicious grill options like blackened chicken, spicy beef steak, or grilled salmon. Looking for something light and flavorful? We've got sushi rolls and poke bowls prepared daily. And don't forget to explore a hot bar or Billy Fresh salad at the salad bar. Stop by Kirk Market today for breakfast, lunch, or dinner and taste the difference. Eat well, live well with Kirk Market.
The Buzz with your host, Kathy Miller.
Welcome back to The Buzz. I am your host, Kathy Miller. And in fact, even though I said we did say bye to Dawn Thomas, Red Bay candidate with the Cayman Islands National Party, she's hanging out with us still, because also from the Cayman Islands National Party, we have Miss Carmen McField, who's a candidate for Georgetown Central. So good morning, Carmen. How are you doing?
Good morning, Kathy. Thank you for the invite.
No problem. Good to have you here. Good to have you here. Mm-hmm. And I know we're on limited time, so we're just gonna go with the questions now. So you were born and raised in Georgetown Central, right?
That's correct.
And with that, how would you say that your personal experiences growing up in Georgetown Central has shaped your understanding of what your constituency needs and what's maybe not being done?
Well, let's say my constituency needs a lot. It's been proven and evident from just driving the streets and walking the road and being in that constituency for many years. I could tell you right now, the $10 million park, the $10 million could have been spent on 40 decent, affordable homes that my people in Georgetown really need. They're crying for a nice place to stay, homes that they could call their home. And also, what about the cost of living and the children who's going to school and struggling and not having proper school equipment, such as uniform, shoes, and so forth? Those people need real representation. Not people that just talk to blow hot air and not get things done. Let's beautify our central Georgetown. Let's take care of our people. What about our seniors? I've visited a few homes just yesterday before the heavy rain came down. And our seniors are saying, oh my God, thank God for you for coming here to Realist, looking for me, because I hadn't seen no proper representation in the last 8 years or 4 years. And they're just asking for company, people just to come out and say, I'm here, and I'm here to take care of you. And our people is not getting that. So I must say, I'm here to do the job. I'm here to put my hands where my mouth is to get things done.
All right. That's a very passionate plea from you right there.
Yes.
And you're in that. So you're running against the incumbent Deputy Premier, Mr. Kenneth Bryan. Mm-hmm. That could be challenging. And what would you say differentiates your platform, your vision from that of your opponents?
Well, our vision is to really get things done and not to overspend and to be there as proper representation. I'm so sorry.
It's all right.
Yes, and to have our platform is different, of course, because we have persons on our group that is leaders, that is experienced, that is knowledgeable. And we have people that have gotten things done in the past, whether it's in the private sector or the public sector. We have persons that is very knowledgeable, including myself, coming from the private sector, coming from a background in compliance, in finance. And we're people that are driven and result-oriented. And we don't say we're going to get something done and don't do it. We get things done. And that what makes us different from the current. We see what they've done, which is nothing, to what we could get in and actually do. So we know we don't have anything. No one could look at us and see what that we didn't, that we failed, and we failed our people in our country. But we could look back and say, what have you done for 8 years, 12 years, or even 4 years? That's nothing.
So executing is a big part of what you think that you do.
Exactly.
Which is interesting because that kind of piggybacks a little bit of what Dawn is currently doing right now with the unemployment registry that you have for Red Bay, right, Dawn? Mm-hmm. So it's, I like to hear that. I like it when people can execute. You got a plan. Yes. We can all have a plan.
Yes.
But when we don't put those steps forward and actually make something happen, it's just a plan. It just sits there.
I'm not stealing Carmen's, but I think you'll find that about the Cayman Islands National Party on a whole. We're not people of talk. We're people of action.
Exactly.
But not just random action. We actually have a plan of how to tackle each and every one of the issues. I'll just leave it there. Well, like I said, it's Carmen's time.
Gotcha.
Yes.
All right, Carmen, you have extensive community involvement, which includes founding the Prospect Community Group.
That's correct.
Co-founding nonprofits like the Cayman Action Committee. So how do you plan to translate that kind of grassroots experience into effective political leadership?
Well, it is just to continue with what I have already started. It is to enhance it. It is to build it up to ensure that all of our seniors or our citizens in the Cayman Islands, whether it's seniors, children, get the attention that they need with those NPOs that I have already started. It is to ensure that we put it on a higher level and use the funding to make sure we put proper programs in place. For example, for Caymankind, we were promised.
What? Whoever's calling her, stop calling her. All right.
We were promised. Sorry.
No, that's all right. I know they're probably listening. That's why I was like, we got to let them.
We were promised by one of the ministers to get a bus for some of our seniors program, and that was done last year. And that the funds were never provided to the Caymankind Action Committee for a bus, so we could provide bus service for our seniors to take them back and forth to various programs. So those are like broken promises. That's very disappointing to know that our seniors deserve better. They work hard in this country. They provided so much and gave so much to this country to build it to where we are today. And to be promised things like a proper bus and transportation to get them back and forth, or take them to places such as the hospital, to programs that would enlighten their day and to help them and make them feel like they're part of society again and they're living, is very disappointing. And those are promises that were never kept and proceeds that were never provided. So when I'm elected, and I'm saying that with the grace of God, that this will be fulfilled. Promises, it won't be promises, it will be action that will be fulfilled, that our seniors will be taken care of, our children will be taken care of, and such things like education programs and the TVEC programs, those will be carried through by our party.
You previously mentioned importance of creating opportunities for Caymanians and prioritizing education.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on any of your plans or the party's plans to enhance educational opportunities and workforce development?
Well, let's say we would like to carry out a lot of the programs. We've done some work streams in regards to our educational programs, such as our TVEC and rebrand or rebuilding what our education system currently have, things that where we falling short on such programs as children that having dyslexia and ADD and so forth. I think we need to really look into how we could assess a lot of those children and how we could go into the schools and really restructure a lot of our programs and restructure some of our syllabus to ensure that no child is left behind. Because a lot of times we have children that is just pushed through the system, and it is not right. And why are they being pushed through the system? We need to have teachers we have hardworking teachers that we have there. We need to push more of our Caymanian to take those roles of teaching the diploma or teaching degrees and have our Caymanians teach our children in the schools. And then we have to enhance the programs by adding TVEC, because not all of our students are going to be lawyers, doctors, and academically inclined and do exceptionally well in subjects. So we need to hone into the areas where the children are failing and they're not really good at that. And create programs such as the TVEC, as I mentioned, with those children, and start very young, start from the last year of primary school, at that age where they understand, and the robotic programs also, such as the computer programs and the AIs, because the children have, I'm coming across children at 4 and 5 that's using laptops and using their tablets and using phones. Very great. So we need to hone into those little areas where our children are already inclined to do well when it comes to the little techie things, and just grasp those children and we'll hone into that and introduce that into the schools to see where their strengths and their weaknesses are.
And one of your other candidates within the Cayman Islands National Party, Michael Miles, he's well versed when it comes to TVET programs.
Exactly.
Right? So that's something that you are also championing, echoing, and that's a priority for the Cayman Islands National Party.
That's right.
We got less than a minute, so before we got to go to the next interview. So if you want to let us know anything else that you want listeners and voters in Georgetown Central to know about you, now's the time. Any meetings, anything like that?
Sure. I have a meeting coming up this Thursday in Georgetown Central. That's on Shaden Road. That's close to the junction, I would say next to opposite Archie's Bar. I'm trying to find an easier way to describe the spot. It's a new parking lot that Flowers just built, and it's right next to CN Bar and close to Funky Tanks, right in that vicinity. So it's a parking lot right there for Flowers, and I will be hosting my meeting there this Thursday at 7 p.m. So I'm asking all of my Georgetown Central constituency to come out and listen to my great ideas or the party's ideas, and the Georgetown team will be there supporting me as in regards to the party, including Dawn. We will all be there. And I also want to promote the youth rally.
Yes, we have a youth rally on April 10th at the Hive.
At the Hive,
6:30 to 9 o'clock, 9 p.m. A lot of our party members will be there. Come out. We very much want to connect with the youth. We want to hear from them. It's a good opportunity to ask the candidates questions and exchange ideas. It's definitely about involving them in what we're doing and giving them the opportunity to speak to us directly.
That's right.
Wonderful. Thank you, ladies, so much. We got to go to a next commercial break, and then hopefully it'll be our final wrap-up interview with, I think, another Cayman Islands National Party member. So
thank you.
Great.
Hey, Cayman parents, we get it. You're underslept, over-trafficked. You can barely find your sanity in the morning because you're still trying to find your kids' shoes and lunch boxes. Let Yum take some of the stress away. Every day, over 3,000 students enjoy delicious, nutritious meals from Yum. Over 5 million lunches served and counting. Private school parents, browse the Yum Cayman app and order up to a month in advance or last minute by 12 a.m. the night before. Government school students, just drop by the Yum canteen. No pre-orders needed. Yum can't help you find your sanity, but we can sure make your mornings just a bit easier. Check out daily menus at myschoolpos.com or visit yumcayman.ky to learn more.
The 7 a.m. Sports Report, brought to you by Dr. Wayne Porter, offering a full-service dermatology and dermatological surgery practice. Call 946-9020 to book your appointment today.
The nation listens. The candidates speak. Subway presents the General Election Debates, live in studio on Radio Cayman 89.9 FM and 93.9 in the Sister Islands. Every Monday and select Wednesdays from 7 to 10 p.m. 2 sessions. One powerful discussion. With Election Day fast approaching, hear what the candidates have to say on the cost of living, housing and development, economic growth, sustainability, education, transport, tourism, immigration, and more. Who has the vision? Who has the plan? Hear it all unfold live, unfiltered, and on the voice of the Cayman Islands. Radio Cayman, 89.9 FM and 93.9. Streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. Visit Radio Cayman's social media pages for debate details. Brought to you in part by Cayman Enterprise City.
Also brought to you by Reflections, UCCI, and Yum.
Hey, Cayman parents, we get it. You're underslept, over-trafficked. You can barely find your sanity in the morning because you're still trying to find your kids' shoes and lunch boxes. Let Yum take some of the stress away. Every day, over 3,000 students enjoy delicious, nutritious meals from Yum. Over 5 million lunches served and counting. Private school parents? Browse the Yum Cayman app and order up to a month in advance or last minute by 12 a.m. the night before. Government school students? Just drop by the Yum canteen. No pre-orders needed. Yum can't help you find your sanity, but we can sure make your mornings just a bit easier. Check out daily menus at myschoolpos.com or visit yumcayman.ky to learn more.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
On a daily basis, making it easy to connect with you, our listeners. Add us to WhatsApp today, 925-3261. That's 925-3261.
Radio Cayman.
Send a text or voice note.
Message us at 925-3261 on WhatsApp today and get active with Radio Cayman.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
We give you honor and praise, adoration and glory.
Radio Cayman.
Praise time.
Praise him, praise him. Come and let's praise the Lord. Come and let's praise the Lord. Praise him in the morning and in the evening. Oh, let's praise the Lord.
Praise time in the morning.
Praise him, praise him.
Weekdays 6 to 6:30 a.m.
Radio Cayman, waking you up.
Rock my soul in the blues of my favorite hand. Rock my soul in the blues of my favorite hand.
Praise time.
I know he cares. He'll always be there. Oh, yeah. Praise him, praise him, praise him.
Praise time.
Set your clock for 6 a.m. or you will miss it. The Buzz with your host, Kathy Miller.
The Buzz. Welcome back to The Buzz. I'm your host, Kathy Miller, and guess what? We didn't have the other candidate come. We tried to get a hold of him, and we don't know where he is right now. So I said, ladies, it's still the Cayman Islands National Party time, so if you would like to still talk about what your priorities are with the party or what the party's priorities are, let's talk about it now. We got the time. Did you just say the other candidate came? Oh, the other candidate came. All right. So we're going to let the other candidate in as well. So we're going to just let him come in through the door. And while we do that, I think good morning. This is Mr. Haymond Rankin that we were waiting on. So welcome to The Buzz. Good to have you on my little segment of the show here. It's going to be a little quick interview.
That's fine.
But
good morning to the listening audience. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Right before we did come back from the break, Dawn did tell me that there's going to be a manifesto launch for the Cayman Islands National Party.
Yes. It's out this Friday, April 12th. Look for that. It'll be released online, electronically. And then, obviously, because we're concerned about the environment, we will release very limited printed copies. But people are more than welcome to stop by our national office and pick one up or contact the candidate in your representative constituency, and they're happy to deliver one to your house. It's online.
Online as well.
Yeah.
We're going to have to beg you guys to bring some copies for us here at the station because we do have people that come through all the time that want to have it. And we used to have manifestos all the time here.
You don't have to beg. We'll drop
I
some off.
I might leave that with Georgetown Central here.
Yes.
I might put that onus on you right now. All right. So thank you, Haymond Rankin, for joining us this morning. Good to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
No problem.
Yes.
For Bodden Town West, you are running. And happy to see you running because you are a younger face. You know, we were seen out there, but you have a plethora of experience behind you.
Indeed, I do.
And you, you know, you're coming up against an incumbent that's been there for a minute. A few election cycles or political cycles so far. So when it comes
that's an American colloquialism for the listening audience. A minute means a hot second or a long time.
Yes. Yes, it is actually. But with your I guess with all of your experience, you know, how do you think that this translates into good governance?
I think the experience that I have to date, you know, it really gives me the ability to call a spade a spade. When I see something that is clearly not right, I am going to speak up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a lot of things that I've seen in the past 4 years and a little bit, whether it's was at the Ombudsman office, you know, or different things throughout life. I've seen things that are just not right. And I really believe that I'm in a good position to be able to highlight these things, to address them. I mean, a post that I even made late last night, when we look at the news articles, the headlines in government, right, we're seeing stuff about the government is being accused of not accurately reporting its accounts. It's accused of not reporting on time. You know, what happened to the surplus we were supposed to have? It's gone. The Auditor General has even called out the government spending and, you know, the lack of being able to control that. So these are things, you know, I'm kind of cut from the same cloth, so to speak, in terms of the Auditor General is someone who looks over, who audits the government, whereas at the Ombudsman office, it was someone who regulates the private sector and the public sector in relation to different laws, one of them being data protection, the other being complaints against the government, complaints against police conduct. So I do think I have a wide depth of experience to be able to call things out when I see them in an appropriate manner.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when it comes to Boddentown West, what do you think are the most urgent issues for Boddentown West that you would hope to address should you be elected?
I think Boddentown West really needs someone who cares for them, someone who is going to be present at all times. I've been to many, many homes in Boddentown West, and people keep on asking me, and I've started to ask the question now too because of how many times it's been put to me, you know, where's the constituency office for Boddentown West? They've been looking for 8 years. They can't find it. I've yet to find one person that knows where it is, and I don't know where it is. You know, I think if we have someone in Boddentown West that truly cares for the people, such as myself, you would have the basic needs met for the people. I already have a headquarters set up at the entrance of Northwood that's going to be used as a constituency office. With the vote on the 30th of April, with your support, you know, I will be not only establishing that officially, but I'm going to be running a whole host of programs there. So programs for the children, after school programs, technical vocational training in partnership with our lovely fellow candidate, Michael Miles. You know, we're going to have programs where we have the elderly that are going to be paired with the young, and each one teach one. Let's educate them on our culture, educate the youth as to where you're coming from, because if you don't know where you're coming from, how do you know where you're going to go, right? We're going to also be doing a lot of things to enrich the community on a whole. So one of the things that we've been contemplating at the constituency office level is to have a transportation system for the elderly. If you need to get a ride to the hospital, if you need to get a lift to the doctor's office, if you need to go to church and your church don't got a church bus, you can call us up and we will have someone on staff and volunteers that periodically go around Boddentown West and take you where you need to go. You know, another idea that that I have and I'm going to implement with the vote of the public on the 30th of April, vote Rankin, please. I care, is to have senior socials. You know, I've seen so many seniors that are just the home, and they have no one that really comes to consistently look for them. They have nothing to do. And these are people who who still have a lot of spunk in their bodies. They can still do things. They want to do things, but they may not have a vehicle. They may not have any family left. Well, periodically throughout the month, we're going to have senior socials. You want to play some bingo? You know, do you want to play dominoes? You just want to chat? You want to hear a gimme story? Like
a little bit of Ludi. Call me for that because
I'll
run them with Ludi.
Yeah, I can just say wholeheartedly, I care about my people on a whole, Caymanians, but I really am heavily invested in the Bordentown area, and I'm running for Bordentown West. So to the listening audience, just know that voting for me is a vote for someone who genuinely cares about you and is going to do everything in his power to make sure you're okay.
You see how he looks right into the camera when he says that? I like that.
Oh, I hope that's the right one.
It is the right one, but I love that. That was great. You touched on some things that Carmen had also said. So when it comes to seniors not really they're being left out, and we have a very aging population in Cayman when it comes to our elderly.
Yes.
So being left out, and then also the bus, the transportation for seniors. So Carmen actually touched on both those things, and we also with Carmen and Dom, we spoke about the TVET opportunities that are more heavily needed, and I know that Michael's been super transformational with that in Cayman.
Absolutely.
So it's
he's honestly,
you guys are very aligned.
Michael is one of our unsung heroes. I know,
I'd say he's one of Cayman's unsung heroes.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's
He's
like,
done a lot.
If you really look at what his body of work at the level that he's done it at without the real support of the government, and he's told us many stories of governments of the past and the present, having to literally beg them to provide a high level of support, which he's not receiving. He had a for-profit company that he turned into a non-profit company just to try and be able to be in a better position to get support from the government and get better buy-in from the private sector to do more, right? The things that he has sacrificed, when I listen to his stories, it really amazes me. And I'm proud to be running with individuals like him and my fellow colleagues here before us today.
I like that. I'm in support of what he does with TVET, absolutely. And he's always somebody who's turned me on to Auditor General reports. So he's got me reading a lot of stuff, and I'm like, I don't understand all this, but I need some help combing
For
through
those
it.
things, you can give me a ring.
Will do.
I've got them down pat.
But it's important to read and know about because it can be quite surprising, quite shocking.
Exactly.
What's in these reports.
And just to talk on the TVET, like I said, the vision for the constituency office is to partner with the likes of Michael Miles and any other individual who has the ability to help. But imagine a situation where kids are leaving school and they're walking up the road to the constituency office in Bordentown West, which we already have established there, and they're getting certifications in carpentry, plumbing, coding for computers for the kids who want to learn about blockchain and Bitcoin and just love computers. We're going to start to produce at a very high level hundreds, if not thousands, of children who are qualified, trained, and ready to get into the working force over the next 4 years. It's easy. It just takes someone who cares and has the will to actually do it. That's all it is.
I want to go on that note of coding, for example, but you've been at the forefront of some fintech and virtual asset development for the Cayman Islands.
Yes.
How do you plan to leverage that experience to help drive economic growth?
Well, there's a lot. You're going to make me geek out a little bit here.
That's
but
fine.
There's a lot of things that can be done from an innovative standpoint that helps Cayman to stay up to date with the world that is fastly changing around us. The ways of which we used to do things has to evolve. If we're not constantly evolving, we're going to get left behind. That is not some wishy-washy thing. That is a fact of life. Now, one of the things that I've shared a couple of weeks ago on the Link Up podcast was just one simple idea that the government could implement to actually start to earn money from the innovative space, cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin. And the thing about it is the most easiest way for government of the past and present to make money is from the immigration system. And we've seen what that's done. That's systematically taking jobs and opportunities away from Caymanians, and it systematically sold a lot of our land to foreigners and effectively drove up the prices to the point where Caymanians can't afford anything. Every other house I go to, they're saying, I know someone close to me or a friend, family that have left because they just can't make it here anymore.
Yeah.
This is a direct result of the policies that we have in place, right? The legislation we have in place. Why not stop thinking like how we used to and start to innovate to make sure Cayman has a future for Caymanians? So one of the things that I brought up on the Link Up podcast was a cryptocurrency savings account. Ooh, what is that? What is that? It's basically just a fixed deposit account that earns savings, but it's all on the blockchain. And you don't need 30 people to run it in a bunch of steps to go through. You effectively can take one Cayman dollar, convert it into a stable coin, which is effectively a digital version of that Cayman dollar. You could put it into the blockchain on a platform, and on the first day of you putting that dollar there, you can earn 4 to up to 10% on that dollar, right? And that's money that you don't have to lock up forever. You could literally take that money out at any point in time. Now, what I'm saying is, if Cayman was to start to investigate what's the best way for us to go and invest our money into these things, we could now create a whole new revenue stream. Imagine if we got the higher end of the interest. Imagine if we were to earn 10%, right? You know how much money we could be making, let's just say on $100 million that is locked in a 1-to-1 digital currency? That's millions a year that you could take out at the end of the period that you've locked it for. That's money for scholarships. That's money for children that are playing sports. That's infrastructure projects. That is, new roads, new buildings. But the government of the past and the government of the present has a massive spending problem. The Auditor General report that you've mentioned, it highlights that clear as day. The news articles that we've seen highlight that clear as day. How much of a deficit are we in now? $26.2 million.
44 at the end of 2026.
And we were supposed to be in a surplus, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
But the government doesn't know how to spend.
I gotta cut you there. It's a thing when my director comes and waves her hands at me to wrap it up.
Okay. Well, I told you I was gonna geek out for a little bit.
No, that's cool. That's fine. But in saying that, I do have. I want to say, how are you going to set up my cryptocurrency savings account? I want to know that, but that could be a side conversation.
But constituency office, we'll be offering courses, free courses on that as well.
Well, that sounds great.
Yeah,
okay.
So vote Rankin.
I'll be. A final question just to wrap this up, and if you could, only take a couple minutes or less to answer it. Accountability has been a cornerstone of your campaign.
Yes.
And as my mother likes to say, if you expect people to be accountable in your life, expect not really to have a whole lot of people in your life, Kathy. But how important is accountability to you, especially when it comes to leadership?
It's extremely important. The laws are in place for a reason, right? If we don't uphold our laws, if we don't uphold the standards in which we are expected to live by, we're living in a lawless society effectively because the laws have no meaning. And I cannot sit by and say nothing and do nothing when I see that there's the need to hold someone or some entity accountable. Our future depends upon it. My children's future, anyone in here who has children, all of our kids' lives depend on the ability for government, for all the relevant departments, the police, to be held accountable, right? It's absolutely a fundamental cornerstone of not only of my campaign, but it should be the cornerstone of how society runs. So I take this very seriously.
Thank you so much, Haymond Rankin with the Cayman Islands National Party and candidate for Boddentown West. Thank you also, Dawn and Carmen, for joining us this morning on The Buzz. Appreciate having you guys. We went a little bit over, but, that's okay. It'll be all right.
Yes.
And I'm sure we'll be hearing from more of you on the future on our other talk shows.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to all our listeners.
So I'll see you.
Yeah,
all right.
On Friday.
You'll hear more from Haymond on Friday. And to our listeners, thank you for hanging out with me this morning. We're going to bring you to some good music.
The preceding was a paid political broadcast.
The Buzz is proudly sponsored by Cayman Insurance Center, specializing in property, life, and other lines of insurance products and services. And Kirk Market. Experience a world of choice. And by Yum. Daily school lunch menus are available to browse on the Yum website. Just visit yumcayman.com.